treasury team about the market overall condition, and what do they feel about like the whole crypto space right now? Because I mean, apparently we can still see Bitcoin struggling, ETH struggling. Like each time it goes up, it goes back down really quick. So the market is still uncertain. There's like the Russian thing still going on, affecting the market and the overall condition of the market. We got
There you go.
some
I think
treasure.
we're done.
Basically, yeah. Like I mean, that's how I see it. But like, we should take the answer from the pros, I guess. Treasury strategy justification and review of the past performance of the treasury, and what we changed in the treasury strategy, because we saw like some investments were taken out, and we want to know why. We're gonna talk about the Tokamak Core 3 plan and path, and the payout plan for the VGAS holders, and answer some questions from the community.
Yep.
So I think I'm gonna start with.
We need Verb.
So Verb's here. Can you raise your hand? Verb. Yep.
You joined?
Yeah, I can see that. Yep, he's joining.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, Verb.
Hello.
Hi, Verb. How's it going, mate?
Good.
Alrighty.
Volume's a bit low. Can you turn up a bit?
Let me see.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Yeah, better.
We
That's
can
better,
right-click
okay.
his name as well, and
Yeah, my
the volume.
output's up all the way, so all I did
All
was
right.
put my mic closer to my mouth, I guess.
All right.
Analog solution, it works.
All right. So, Verb, the first, I guess, like from your perspective of the market overall condition, like if you can tell us about that, and what does the treasury team think about it right now, like in the crypto space?
Yeah, since I lost my partner in crime here last minute, give me 1 second to pull up. I want to make sure I cover everything Ouija wanted to talk about too.
Yeah, actually, Reggie just had something emergency, so pretty much they prepared up, and then Verb need to like cover Reggie, so please bear with it.
All right, well, I will attempt to find that while I talk. So I'll start with kind of overall market, I guess, talking at the highest level. So we're talking about, the major crypto stuff, Bitcoin and Ethereum, beyond DeFi and our immediate space here. I think overall things are kind of trending downwards, or you could argue flat to downwards, depending on what kind of indicators you're looking at. There's not a whole lot of, I don't know, positive momentum or things that are going to trigger a turnaround in the market, at least that I've seen. I know, like, I'm sure everyone on the call has their own kind of strategy in terms of evaluating the market, or I don't know, YouTubers that they watch or indicators that they're looking at, chart patterns. I'm not I'll do a little bit of technical analysis, but that's not my favorite way. I'm looking more at sort of overall trends. So some of the stuff that I look at personally is options and kind of futures stuff. I think it gives a good indicator of like getting sort of market sentiment. Where at large, how is the community thinking about things in the short term and the long term? So right now you have open interest is down. That's like just in terms of sheer volume, how many people are making bets, let's say, within the options market. Implied volatility is down, which is sort of how are those positions and how far they are from being in the money. So not only a sort of the interest being down, but the implied volatility is saying there's not a big move coming one way or the other. And then the put-call ratio is climbing, which is sort of saying there's always going to be more calls, which is people betting on the upside. So people saying the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. For whatever reason, people like to bet upwards, even though you can see that over time things are going to go down just as much as they're going to go up. I don't know. Like, I know we have a position in GMX within the Treasury. I don't know how many of you guys actually look at GMX. If you go and look at their statistics page, they have a great chart that shows like trader profitability. And you can see that there's way more volume being placed on upside bets. And yet over time, the aggregate is a net loss for traders across the board.
I mean,
just
people
shows-
are optimistic, basically.
Yeah,
like
it just shows
usually.
that like people are innately optimistic about, especially being in the crypto space and thinking like, I'm going to make money because Bitcoin's going to go up because that's what it does.
It could also be a lot of people just don't understand the concept of selling short, right? There's still a lot of people who haven't wrapped their heads around that, you know.
Fair enough. So anyway, the put to call ratio climbing is saying there's now more people. There's a higher portion of the overall betting is towards the downside than what it was, you know, a month, 2 months prior. So all of those things today are kind of saying at a higher level, market level, things are kind of neutral to the downside within, I don't know, the short to intermediate term.
So there's still lots of uncertainties, I guess, in the crypto space right now. And like, even though we hear lots of good news about crypto, especially in the Miami convention, it doesn't change the fact that the price is not moving based on the news, like that news or the fundamentals of crypto, but it's moving more on the global news, you know, like inflation rates and wars and those kind of things.
Yeah, so those are sort of the catalysts that are going to drive longer term trends. And it's always kind of interesting because you've got, you know, regulations in the US, or you've got regulations in, drawing a blank on what other country just passed a bunch of regulations that were sort of anti-crypto. You have those kind of things, and sometimes the market reacts to it, and sometimes it doesn't react at all. And it's just sort of interesting what the market seems to care about on any given basis. So I don't want to spend all day talking about general market stuff, but I'll let me touch base a little bit more specifically on kind of DeFi and Ethereum. So there's some other stats to look at there. You have sort of layer one, so Ethereum and the Ethereum based chains, new addresses is trending down, which could be an indicator that there's fewer new users coming into the system. It could mean other things too, because anyone can create addresses, but it's, I would say, not positive no matter how you want to try to spin it. Transaction volumes on Ethereum have been trending downwards. TVL, so total value locked within DeFi, has been trending downwards, and DEX trading volume has been trending downwards. So all of those since probably the beginning of the year, or more severely in the last 3 weeks, are all kind of going down. So I would, like, all of those are sort of leading to me to think, at least short term, we're going to have continued downside risk in a lot of the DeFi space.
All right, thank you, Verb. And like coming to Congruent and tackling the crypto space and the downtrend we're living in for the past 4 months, I think, maybe more actually. It's been like 5 months. But anyway, like in terms of treasury strategy, I saw we saw that we removed some of the positions. Do we have an explanation on why like we removed our funds from Terra and from GMX? Like if we can cover that part.
Sure. So for those who have no idea what Cam is talking about, or you just want to refresh your memory, if you go into, what is it, socials, or was it an announcement, Karen? I forget where you put that yesterday.
Yeah, that should be under Congruent DAO. The proposals and votings.
No, I'm talking about the treasury.
Treasury reports, you mean?
The treasury reports.
Yep.
Treasury reports. Yep.
It's in the tag, treasury reports.
Right.
Under Congruent DAO.
Yeah. So what Cam is referring to is in the treasury reports page. It looks like we haven't posted this week's yet. I'm sure that'll be out shortly. So let me just walk through the positions that we have right now, and kind of just explain the value or what we're getting out of those, and then we'll talk about the changes that we made recently. So the ones for still holding, we have CVX CRV. So that's sort of the curve locked in convex. That is probably one of the higher yielding positions that we have right now.
What's the yield on that right now?
So that's giving 13% in CRV and 29% in CVX for that 2 million that we have in there. That being said, while it's one of the highest yielding, it's also been crushed a little bit. I guess crushed is a bad term. I'm comparing it to our other positions.
Crushed a little bit doesn't quite work together.
Well,
it's like being kind of dead.
Well, no. I'm comparing it to our other positions, which are almost all entirely stable coins. So when stable coins aren't going to move per se. So relative to stable coins, when you look at the price movement on convex and curve, they've been trending downwards for a while, in line with everything else that I was just talking about in terms of overall market downside. So we're getting pretty good yield on that position, but the price valuation of it is probably slightly outpacing the yield at this point, but that's okay. I mean, we're still, accumulating, and when those prices go back up, we'll just have that much more of it. Moving on, we've got the 5 million in the Frax 3 pool, so that's just a bunch of stable coins. We've got Frax paired with USDC, DAI, and USDT. So that one's yields about, that one's only like 2.6% CRV and 3.7% CVX. So again, it's all stable coins. There's not a lot of risk. Not a lot of risk means not a lot of return. At least relative to something volatile like CVX, CRV. And then we have the USD 3 pool, which is that same 3 set of stable coins paired with the USD. That's 1.4% CRV and 2.1% CVX. So if you guys remember last week, we passed the Frax finance protocol into the TAP 6. So that'll the BUSD funds that we have there were originally deposited in Anchor. So some of that money will probably be starting to look to leverage elsewhere to get a little bit higher yield. But that brings me to, I guess, the next point. We can talk about the UST and then the GMX holdings that those are kind of the strategy changes that we made 2 weeks ago. So since you all read my 16-page Anchor proposal when we did it, you're all well aware that Anchor has some risks associated with it. So Anchor protocol is sort of built by Terra Labs and who run the Terra blockchain and created Luna and UST and all of that. So Anchor protocol is sort of a lending and borrowing platform where people deposit funds and can borrow against them. And they have promised to pay out 19, I think it used to be 20, now it's like 19.5 fixed APR on the UST stablecoin, which is an algorithmically pegged to $1. So you think about how are they paying out that high of a rate? So like when you have a traditional bank, they're paying interest based off of the returns that they're able to get from their borrowing. The returns that Anchor is getting from their borrowing doesn't come close to matching what they're paying out to people who are depositing UST. It's like a fraction of it. Actually, do I even have that up? So their total borrowing pool right now is 3 billion UST. Or I guess I should just, 3 billion UST. And their interest on that is, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't want to look it up, but let's say that's close to 20%. They have 12 billion UST deposited that they're paying out 20% on. So they're not even close to being able to cover their deposits that they're paying out with the revenue that they're generating from borrowing. So they're just draining their reserves very rapidly. And back in February, they literally hit zero on their reserves. And Do Kwon, who is the founder of all of that stuff, came up with, $500 million. Was it more than that even? I don't know. A whole lot of money that he just put back into the reserve from somewhere and is now using that to pay out. So now that, $500 million or whatever it was that was paying out that reserves has been getting drained at $4 million a day for the past however many months. So right now there's somewhere between a month and a half to 2 months of reserves left. And at which point either they're going to magically come up with another $500 million or they're going to have to do something. So they've already approved proposals which are going to reduce the Anchor deposit yields over time. But either way, you kind of have a risk. So either they're not going to be able to pay out those yields or those yields are going to go down over time. And people are going to start going to look elsewhere for yield. So it was a great place when you're getting 20% on a stable coin. When you're not getting 20%, people are going to start looking elsewhere. They're going to start moving out of UST. They start moving out of UST, which is not a backed stable coin. It's an algorithmic stable coin. The value of UST can quickly lose its peg. And that would happen very quickly. So that was sort of the concern that we had in, we're getting great yield on this position, but it's meant to be a stable coin. And if it can lose its peg very quickly, we don't know that we want to be there. And it's something that may never come to fruition, but it didn't feel like it was worth the risk for us, at least until they come up with a real solution of how to make this a sustainable protocol.
That is true. And, I guess the Treasury team is well aware of what they're doing and you're part of them. And we literally changed the whole concept and the whole vision to keep our safe returns. But if our investment in Treasury is risky, we are not gonna like it if something happens to Terra, especially that we had a lot of money in there. And going for GMX now, I know that we closed our position at basically a profit, right? Before the market crash, before the Bitcoin crash, right?
I mean, certainly while it was still trending down and it's below where it was, I don't know the exact number of where we bought in to say how much of a profit was on that, and it's not something that we were looking to swing trade. Right now, it's really just about seeing all of those macroeconomic indicators that I talked about earlier, saying, yeah, we're earning some good ETH yield on this position, but so just to recap what GLP is sort of like an index that holds a basket of other tokens. So the largest of those being, I believe, Ethereum, and then Bitcoin, and then it's like 50% stable coins after that. So it's not entirely volatile, but it's fairly volatile. Let me look here. So it's 40% USDC, 34% ETH, 11% Bitcoin, then pretty much everything else is fairly stable. So it's really about hedging that downside for the Ethereum and Bitcoin positions. We still really like GLP. It still has great yields. So there's two portions that make up the yield on that one, which are so wrapped ETH because it's on Arbitrum, and ESGMX, which is GMX is the governance token for the GMX.io platform. The escrowed GMX is just means it's locked. So if we wanted to unlock it, it's like a year vesting time or something like that. So we're getting 33% yield in ETH and 17% yield in that escrowed GMX. So it's a very good position for us. The GMX platform itself has some interesting things coming up in terms of trying to attract new users, and then some ideas on how to revamp their platform to be a little bit more profitable too. So like that's really what's funding that GLP yield. It's not like fake yield where they're just kind of minting tokens. That's fees generated from trading on their platform, the perpetuals exchanges, or liquidated positions within those exchanges.
So basically, we are gonna go back to GMX and GLP like when the market is a bit certain, I would say. Like right now, we exited the position, I guess, but later on we gonna go back there.
Right. So like right now, exiting saved us, I think, $200,000 or something like that, and so hopefully we can get back in at a correct time. Not that I really want to be in the business of trying to time the market too much, but yeah, it's definitely generated solid returns for us so far, and I don't see any reason to steer away from it longer term.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Verb, for the treasury justification, and now for like the news that we've all been waiting for. I wish Ouija was here because he's like mainly responsible of getting that spot. But I mean, since y'all here, so how is it going with Tokamak Core 3 plan, and like where are we at right now, Verb?
So I mean, I don't think just start with confirming. Yeah, so we are now listed as one of the protocols that's going to be listed for Core 3, which is sort of competing for a spot to get a reactor on their platform. I actually don't know how many spots they are going to allow. Either way, for just to refresh everyone's memory, the way these core reactor, I don't know, auctions, not really auctions, they're really you vote on them, but there's bribes involved, so it becomes more or less an auction. So holders of Toke can vote on which one of the protocols they want to have a reactor, and then obviously all of those protocols are bribing for their votes to try to win the most votes. So if you like back in our original proposal, which I think we wrote in, I don't know, February, because at the time we were under the impression Core 3 was going to start in the beginning of March, and here we are in, the middle of April, and now it looks like it's going to start in the middle of May, or the
That's
early
true.
May, I should say.
Yeah.
So we kind of acquired a bunch of toke, which looks like now it's about $650,000 worth of toke that we have staked in their platform right now. We're going to be looking to, I don't know, kind of leverage some of that for bribes, and then we'll evaluate what other treasury assets we need. It's sort of an unknown, because if you look at the amount that it took in the first, or in Core 2, I should say, that would have been more than enough to get a reactor. Now it seems like there are much more and larger protocols involved.
Which is a good thing, actually.
So it's I think it's a good thing in that it'll be that much more significant if we're able to acquire one. It'll just be a little bit more competitive to get. And so some of the benefits, I'm sure you're all what you really care about, the benefits to
the big gas holders, basically, yeah.
So
what is it for me?
Yeah, just again, because you all read actually that one I didn't write. That one was Ouija and Apollo, I think, wrote the toke one before, which was, I think, over 20 pages or something. But so toke is a liquidity directing platform. So you put if you have a reactor, you can kind of put your tokens, or users can add your tokens to a reactor along with toke as the other pair in the liquidity pool. And that gets used to route liquidity to the DEXs, so your Uniswaps and your Sushi swaps. So our original plan for that was to get a reactor and use that to drive liquidity into a wrapped staked gas liquidity pool, probably in Sushi Swap, or I guess if people voted for it to go to Uniswap, that'd be fine too. But that would allow us to trade directly within, wrapped gas without having to buy gas and then stake it and then wrap it.
That's great news, actually,
so
because
it would save everybody some transaction fees on both the buy side and the sell side. And then the other kind of important thing, just from being on toke and having a reactor itself, is the visibility of the protocol. So users of toke just seeing it there and being like, oh, what's this, let me go check it out. It's just sort of an exposure thing, which is getting back to what I was saying. It sort of speaks to the importance of the platform, just with the scale and number of projects that are interested in getting into Core 3.
That is true, actually, because we noticed some momentum in our price the past week due to the listing of Congruent on the Toke website in the DAO section, which led many Toke investors basically to check us out maybe and check our docs and how do we operate and all that. And we saw some buying pressure, which is basically a good thing because that's the exposure we need, or maybe those are the investors we need in Congruent, like the people that appreciate like the safe returns that we are trying to get to everyone. And you got your partner in crime right now coming online, Ouija. He had something urgent and he's here.
Oh boy. I think the last thing that I wanted to say about toke was just, so once we, the benefits that I just talked about, the last thing is just the yield. So you having, posted your assets into a reactor, you're earning toke yield. So that's just another yield generating strategy that we would potentially be able to use to pay back to VGAS holders,
Let
or
me.
just grow the
Sorry.
treasury, whatever we decide to do with that.
From what I know is that from what I understood is that like since we are locking our WS gas and getting VGAS, so basically our WS gas is within the Congruent DAO address or contract. So basically that DAO is gonna stake our WS gas in the reactor, and that's how the VGAS holder get their token from, right? Like if that's right.
I don't know that it would be the gas from within that contract, because it's locked in that contract. Probably someone from the core team might have a more technical explanation, but we also have some gas holdings, I think, within some of the other treasury wallets.
Yeah, I would say there's a number of ways we can play as to how to give value to the VGAS holders. For example, I'm sure Verb's kind of touched on what reactors are, what they provide, the low slippages for people who want to trade on a specific platform, and how we can direct that to make it more efficient for the protocol, things like that. Also, tokens becoming, once it reaches what we call the singularity, it doesn't need third-party liquidity providers, which means it can sustain that itself. If it gets to that, chances are they're going to start switching on the governance utility of tokens, which is in the pipeline. It's not until they reach that kind of velocity. Then we have that added governance power, which will drive value to ourselves, but also, like I said, it provides different utility for people who want to trade. I would say if it's locked within that contract, it means that the power is within the DAO, which really drives up the intrinsic value of the VGAS token, for example. If it's got the governance factor tied in, that means that we can serve to use that for the VGAS holders to vote on what we do with that liquidity direction from the protocol. So you have the power that's filtered to the VGAS holders. If we get a revenue switch within Toke, for example, where they start to reach the limit of Toke being provided, they're going to, because they have an actual revenue driver, their revenue, if you can price to earn or do a price to earnings ratio for crypto, which is actually not super predictive of how valuable a token is, but it does give you an idea. If they start to switch on revenue drivers like that, you'll see a type of revenue driven towards token holders, and that in the future could be funneled back to VGAS holders. So that's how that might work in the future, if that makes sense. Does that help, Emma?
Yep. Thank you so much, Ouija. Last question about Toke, basically, since we know now we got listed in the core 3, which is a really exciting news, which means they appreciate our work that's been done here, because I don't think they're gonna give a spot for core 3 without researching us, which is amazing. And thank you again, Ouija, for working on that part as well. My last question about Toke is that how aggressive are we gonna be to fight for a spot for the core 3? Like, are we gonna be aggressive and competitive with our competitors actually fighting for the core 3 reactor?
Yeah, we've done quite extensive research on how the last 2 events have worked. So we know what strategies have worked in the past. We know some of those strategies are no longer viable because there's been a change in the auto balancing of the equation. I forget the token, shapeshifter Fox token is, they played it a particular way in the last core event. I don't think that's a viable solution anymore, but it's something that we could have done as like a Hail Mary, but risky. There's a few options available to us. So obviously, if we vie for a core 3 slot, which is what we're trying to get, I think it's more valuable. There's a few ways we can play that, and how much and when we deploy the amount of wrap state gas that we want to put in, for example, to incentivize Toke holders to us to vote for us. We also have our own Toke our own poke holding, which we can use to vote ourselves. So there's a number of different ways that we can do this. It's just how and when we deploy that at different times to incentivize people. That's going to be the trick to it. There's a lot of competitors in this, so it is a risk, as everything is, especially at the moment with the macro conditions. I'm sure you guys have covered that already. It is a risk, but it's no means a zero play game. So we can do other things with the tokens should we need to. So we can play that a couple of different ways, but I'd say we're definitely aiming for that core free slot. Also, further on down the road, it's going to be permissionless. I know that for a fact. So should the worst happen and we choose also not to remove the allocation or reallocate the portfolio, we can simply sit on it, provide liquidity, build our holdings, and then when the core free permissionless comes out, we can utilize that in a different way. So there's more than one way to play this. Yeah.
All right, that's good to know. We have like plan A, B, C then. That's great. Thank you, Rija. Now I'm gonna head for the questions that been asked by the community. And Freddy, can you hear us? Hello, Freddy.
Hello, Freddy. You might need to create and join again. Same issue, probably. It's like always like that.
Yeah,
Have to do that once.
True.
But it should be okay after we join. Here we go. Hi, Freddy.
You hear me now?
Yes,
Yep.
we can. All right,
Always.
Freddy.
I don't know why that keeps happening.
So, well, Discord
Anyways.
things, I guess. Okay, first question is for Freddy. Terra Luna started to buy Bitcoins to back up their UST stablecoin. Will it ever be a topic in Congruent to back up its strategy with buying Bitcoins? Or ETH?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good question, I guess. But right now, we don't have any plans to do that. Although, we do hold a lot of stable coins already, just to be on the safe side. So a lot of our treasury is still a lot of stable coins. But we do try and be fairly conservative. So but when you look at a lot of VE tokens that we deal with, I mean, those are fairly stable and they're pretty reliable, most of them. So I would say no, generally. I mean, for the specific one, sorry, but I mean, we're
Maybe
not
in a
against
bull
it.
run we think about it, but not right now, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, got to be a bit more conservative right now. So.
I would say with that, Freddie, as well is an angle we could maybe explain this through is why UST is buying those Bitcoins, and the difference between us and UST, for example, is obviously they're a stablecoin provider. So that originally, if you take a bank, they used to back it with gold, right? That's what everyone knows. It's collateralized, and they're doing that with Bitcoin, for example. You can take DAI, for example. What happened in the future is, or throughout the history of central banking or banking, is they started to sell the gold, and they agreed that they would buy other assets that are yielding for it, but they would provide the redemption factor. It becomes partially collateralized, and then eventually they sold everything, and that's when they depegged from the gold standard. Because it was no longer viable to back something that you don't hold enough of to redeem, and then they started to peg things otherwise. So that's what the CPI is the Consumer Price Index. So it's really a central bank thing as to what you want to do with that. I'd say the approach we're taking with the VE, the governance factor and the stable coins is optimal for our approach. I don't think it's by no means that we can't do it. I just think that the stablecoin play and things like that, and the way we're going about it is quite stable, quite good, I think. I don't know if that helps, but.
All right. Thank you, Freddy. Thank you, Rija, for the response. If we get a toke reactor, could you go into detail about how it will benefit the VGAS or WS gas holders? I think we covered that part, but Garrett, if you want to add anything, please.
Yeah, that's pretty much covered by Verb and Reggie already. Like so if people want to know more details, probably I would just send the proposal we prepared by Verb and Reggie before. So pretty much, so we if we get listed, so we got a chance to for people to get like the we stake WS gas, and probably we can get like toke. So that's can be part of the incentives for the V gas holders. So that may be taken into consider. So pretty much the mechanism can be referred back to what Verb and Reggie said, and also I can send the proposal in the group chat later on, and everybody can also have a look. It's pretty long as well. Likewise, the GMX proposal. You may need to take some time to look at it. Okay, so that's my answer for that one.
Thank you, Garrett. I have a new question actually, which is important. Any of you guys can cover it. Since now we exited like the Terra position and the GMX position, and our last announcement was that we are getting like the bribes for, or not the bribes, like the rewards, stable rewards for the VGAS holders were actually coming from the GMX. Now that we exited that position, what is the plan for the VGAS holders? Like how? From where are we getting the rewards after? Like maybe this round is already covered by GMX or the next round, and after that, what is the plan for the VGAS holder? If Ouija can take it, or Verb, Freddy.
Yeah, so Freddy, you want to take that one? Okay, probably I'll just go with this one. So pretty much, so for this question, as we have like the accumulated like the treasury assets from GMX strategy before, right? So as we mentioned before we create the position, so we try to get our users to get benefits from these positions. So pretty much, so the yield from GMX will cover for pretty much so 2 to 3 rounds, and then we will have like CCRV. So that one, so we're under the guidance from the curve depth. Pretty much, so we're under the guidance from the curve depth, and we are doing some upgrade and also some change into that one. So, and also after we have the Flex strategy deployed, so we will have like high yield from that one as well. So they'll keep us moving and get the rewards to our VGAS holders. So pretty much, so that can be covered for our VGAS holders in terms of the rewards.
All right. Thank you, Garrett. And like that small detail that you mentioned was kind of extra bullish, but it passed by really quick. Like we are under the guidance of a curve dev, which is great, actually. That's amazing. And hopefully when we launch the CCRV later, it's gonna be big.
Yeah, I should just mention. So.
Yeah, Freddy, go for it.
Yeah, so I just not sure if people are up to date, but we did put forward a proposal for the curve gauge. People are aware of that for the CCRV.
Yes, CCRV.
Yeah, I'm not sure if people are up to date on that, but even though the proposal was not adopted, but we did get some constructive feedback from the curve devs and the convex people. So we can rework the proposal and tweak the plan. So I think that's what Carrot is referring to, because we're still optimistic about this, because if it had been totally rejected and thrown in the garbage, they would have said so. But they're working with us and they're trying to make it better. So once, and that's a good sign, right? I mean, the fact that they're willing to work with us and they see potential and they're actually taking the time to help us tweak it, that's a very good sign. So yeah, that should be coming once we can work that out with them, then that'll be good.
That's great. That's great to know. I actually felt that they actually are checking us and giving us instructive comments when I joined their Discord. Actually, like their comments to us were less aggressive than other people that have questions
That's
there
true.
or proposals.
Yeah,
So
if you
yeah,
see
I felt
how
the
they react to some
positivity.
people's proposals.
Oh, I saw. I saw. So yeah.
They're very direct when they don't like somebody. So
That is true, and that's why I'm very positive about CCRV. Verb, do we have a rough projection for the treasury growth? I mean, we know that the market is down. We know that we are taking all the safe measures right now because we don't want to throw our money, the treasury money, and like lose value in it because it's a downtrend. Like we admit, it's a downtrend. It's been a downtrend for like 4 or 5 months now. So it's kind of a hard question, but I mean, do we have a rough projection for the treasury growth with our current investments and products?
Yeah, I mean, I gave out the current yields for the larger positions that we have. I'm not going to attempt to give a number in aggregate. Like, as you know, we're going to be, moving a bunch of that into new strategies fairly soon. We don't know we don't know how Toke and the reactor process is going to play out, and we don't know the timelines for CCRV, so I don't think it's overly meaningful me to just put a number out there.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, our vision is not 100% deployed yet, so it's kind of a hard question, to be honest. It is. And yeah, like let's maybe next round table or the one after that, we get like a small insight about like if Toke, let's say, got adopted like the reactor, and the CCRV is launched, then we might have a good answer for this question, I guess. That's it for me, guys. I don't have any other questions or comments. If anyone of the people listening would like to, I will take one question from the community of a community member that is listening right now, and we try to answer it. That was unprepared, so they're gonna yell at me, but I'm gonna do it. If you got a good question, ask it now in chat. Are you guys working directly with the Curve dev to help build CCRV, or are you just taking their feedback on our proposal? Freddie? Okay.
yes, we're talking directly with the devs.
Well, like it's something like we cannot comment, right? even if we are working with them, they don't want us to say that. So pretty much, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not working. I mean, they're giving us direct advice. I mean, they're not,
They're not developing the contract.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're being helpful. That's what I'm saying. They're being directly helpful.
Oh, sorry, I missed the question. Actually, I have a question for you, Freddie. Who's Congruent? Who is like Congruent's biggest competitor in the Curve Wars? Is it Yarn Finance? And like, what's your take on that question? Who are our competitors?
In the Curve Wars? I'd
In
say
general,
right now,
if you want, like in the space, like where we at in the governance.
I don't know. Actually, it's kind of strange because I mean, for example, if we look at what we're doing primarily right now in the Curve space, you'd have to look at CCRV. And in that space, I mean, so far, I'd say it's been very collaborative. I mean, a lot of the other projects that are building on Curve, we talk to them, we deal with them, and everybody's actually pretty collaborative. So I wouldn't say there's really competitors. We're all kind of working with each other. We talk to each other, and trying to make each other better. So I kind of like the space. Actually, it feels more like everybody wants everybody to succeed. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it. Like if you look at ones that are building like Conic and XBE and all these ones, right? They've been very collaborative.
Fair enough. Basically, okay, is the VGAS, if the VGAS is locked and USDC profit share can holders still bond? I'm not sure I understand the question, Mad. We got like 3 more minutes for a last question. And if you want to add something, Freddy, Carrot, Ouija, Verb, Mike, if you guys want to add something meanwhile.
Haven't heard from Mike yet. Mike, you got anything?
Yeah, Mike, hello.
Maybe he need to deal with his personal affairs. And Freddie, if you got any suggestion,
There he is.
oh, okay.
There he is. Yeah, I just had to get my mic going. No, I mean it was covered well. I think we got a good plan in place and obviously a good team doing it. So
There you go.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Freddy, Carrot, you got anything to add?
Yeah, like I was trying to ask Freddie, like for the market condition like this, as like the person like being through 2017, 2018, 2019. So you have any suggestion for people, like for investors? Like any suggestion would be good for them? From your personal experience.
I think I think Verb already went through it, right, with the market conditions. I would say try to play it safe, right? Play safe for now.
Play safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't aim for like high APY yield, that kind of thing. Where like to aim for your like principal, you know what I mean? So just trying to play safe. Yeah.
That is true. Oh, well, thanks you, Freddy, Garrett, Ouija, Mike, Verb. Thank you for all your feedback and comments and updates for the community. I'm going to wrap this up and have a good day, guys, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Bye.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
You too, man.